And Tom, over the course of your career, your teams have been really successful at avoiding going 0 and 2. You know, is there a unique or a special kind of level of growth that a football team, from your experience, can undergo from week 1 to week 2 in terms of avoiding that kind of thing?
I think, any week is about the same thing. It's not, beginning of the season, middle of the season, end of the season, playoffs. It's just all winning football. So, how do you do that? You score points. How do you score points? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. Offense, defense, special teams. If I look at it from my standpoint on offense, we got to do it when we're out there, which means eliminate negative plays, have good communication. It's very tactical. So, winning the game is a byproduct of doing a lot of things the right way. And, that goes all the way down into your practice, to your preparation, to your attitude, to your teamwork, to your commitment, to your discipline, to your determination, to how tough you are mentally, physically. Are you making the right plays on a daily basis? And, we got to, all those things come up and we're going to improve them. We see they're not right. We're going to try to improve them.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Back at you today for episode 129. It's officially week 2 of the NFL season, and the Buccaneers have a game this Sunday. They're taking on division rivals, the Carolina Panthers, and they're doing it in an empty Raymond James Stadium. So Tom Brady will make his Tampa debut in front of the NFL camera people, and maybe the coaching staff who are watching the game. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. And we've got a very special guest joining the show today. We've got an awesome game preview stacked. Mr. Bucs Nation on YouTube, a.k.a. good friend of the show, James Hill. How are we doing today, boys? Good.
all that for just good. I'm doing fine. I'm doing swell, Redicus.
So for the people who obviously won't know, this is like take 3 or 4 of this episode of the podcast, and between technical difficulties, James trying to drink on our show, which goes on YouTube and hopefully gets monetized.
Correct.
To a bunch of other things. This is our attempt. This is the one that I think is going to make it, and I think we're feeling good about it. We got a good show on our hands. I'm really excited.
We're all wearing our
Cannon Fire Podcast shirts.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, repping the brand.
Yeah, that's right. So it's also available in black if that's more your style. So
there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, James was drinking root beer, so it was okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Zach, it's true.
All right, so we have got a lot of things that we need to get to. First and foremost, before we get into the injury report or any of the game preview, I feel like I need to reach out to my fellow Bucs fans for a second and just remind everybody that there is a plethora of Buccaneer fan-driven content that is just head and shoulders better than the daytime talk shows that you're going to be looking at on Fox Sports or ESPN nowadays. I think adding fuel to the fire and giving these clowns like Skip Bayless and Max Kellerman, sometimes Stephen A. Smith, I think giving these guys a platform to talk about Bucs football as if they know what they're talking about is just shameful. And I think it is a friendly reminder. First off, if you're listening, I really do appreciate you listening. But there are a ton of other Buccaneers podcasts as well. So for anybody who doesn't already, make sure you go check those out, because I'm just tired of hearing these guys talk on my TV. I'm tired of it being the first thing I see on Twitter is, Max Kellerman says that Brady is obviously in the decline because Bruce Arians came out and publicly criticized him. Listen, it's not breaking news that Bruce Arians vocally criticizes someone on his football team. That's Bruce being Bruce. That's the line. That's what you're always going to hear. And it's definitely not breaking news for Tom Brady. Like, the guy's played for 20 years. He's seen it all. I guarantee you. Bill Belichick has thrown in some shade maybe one time or another in New England. I mean, let me get off of my soapbox, but, like, I'm just tired of seeing it, guys. What are you thinking?
I mean, those guys are they're paid by the big networks to put out the hot takes.
Yeah.
So you have Max Kellerman saying Brady's washed, and you have Skip Bayless saying Brady's not washed, but the coaching staff is terrible and stuff like that. So yeah, you're never gonna get, because God forbid they say that the Bucs are fine and move on. That's not a hot take. So they got to do that. So I mean, yeah, there's a ton of content out there for Bucs fans, and I look at other NFL teams, and I don't even think that other NFL teams have as many different styles of content that Buccaneers fans do. And I mean, there's so many different podcasts out there now that are good ones, and each one of them has a different style and they do different things. And then obviously, of course, we got basically the king of Buccaneers YouTube on here with us, right? Mr. Bucs Nation, who has been doing it
himself.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's been doing it
relax.
for a long time. So, I mean, you got him, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, it's all over the board. And I think, Bucs fans should really, really hopefully enjoy all of them, and just whatever. Like ESPN, Fox, they're all big corporations who don't really care as much.
Yeah, I mean, and that's their jobs, like you said, Evan, is like their jobs are to bring up controversy, to add spice to situations when there literally is probably nothing there. I think that whatever the situations, there's nothing going on, and it's the national media's job to make it look like there's stuff going on. That's just what they're there to do. That's their jobs. But, even more so than that, I think that one of the benefits of listening to more local content creators, like podcasts, like YouTube channels, like whatever other forms of content are out there, is that you're going to get more in-depth looks at the entirety of the team. You're not just going to sit there and hear on an ESPN or wherever else they're, talking about the Buccaneers. You're not just going to hear, okay, Tom Brady and the coach don't like each other. Okay, that's it. Let's move on. We're done talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, you're going to hear other stuff about the rest of the team that's more factual, that's has a lot of knowledge behind it, and will overall increase your fanhood, because you're learning more about the team and about every single player on the team. So there's just a long list of benefits to just listening to local fan content, on different platforms, rather than listening to the national talking heads when it comes to talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Pretty much, man. And when you want a balanced look at the rest of the team, like you brought up, great way to do it is all of these fan websites, all of the guys who are paid to do it. I mean, all of your Pewter reports, all of your, I guess, Tampa Bay Times. There's quite a bit out there that you can dive into if you're a Bucs fan and looking for content on the team. And if you're listening to us, then we truly appreciate you doing it with us. Now, speaking of the rest of the team, we have an injury report to go over. So let's go over the latest injury report that dropped today, right around 4:15 p.m. We're going to go down this list of players and give you their updates. We're also going to go over the Panthers injury report. Not the ones that you don't care about, not the full participation guys, but we're going to go over some key players for Carolina that may be missing action this weekend. So let's get into it. Starting off with Tampa Bay. Tight end Anthony Allclair with a calf injury did not participate at practice today. Wide receiver Mike Evans with a hamstring injury was limited participation. And a follow-up quote from Mike Evans. He said he's feeling about as good as he can be. And for a guy that played last Sunday, I mean, I kind of have no doubts that he's going to play at this point. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say so.
So, Mike Evans, good to see. I'm expecting him to hopefully have a bounce-back game. I'd love to see him kind of be the guy. And with this next guy on the injury report, he very well could be that main faucet for Tom Brady in this offense. Chris Godwin, with a concussion, did not participate. So it's an interesting case with Chris Godwin. He came out of Sunday's game after a hit from DJ Swearinger, and he didn't practice for a couple of days, but I guess the consensus was he was feeling all right. He was out there participating a little bit. and then he started to develop some symptoms, and they put him on concussion protocol. Right? Is that what I understand to be true?
So the way I was told was basically Monday he felt fine. They don't have practice on Mondays. Tuesday he felt fine. They don't have practice on Tuesdays. And he was available for the media on Tuesday, which if you're in concussion protocol, you're not allowed to be available for the media. So a lot of people thought, okay, he's not in concussion protocol. All of a sudden, yesterday he pops up on the injury report and did not practice, is in concussion protocol. So there was a doctor who had tweeted out basically he thinks that Chris Godwin could maybe miss multiple weeks because with a concussion, when you're showing late symptoms, it's maybe worse. Now, I don't know, obviously the severity of the concussion, but he didn't practice again today, which is we're recording this on Thursday, the 17th. So it's not a good sign for his status on Sunday. I would be shocked if he played. Just because, I mean, if you get put in concussion protocol on a Wednesday and you're supposed to play on Sunday, I don't see how you're going to play. But hopefully they have him back for week 3 in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, I find it, even Wednesday makes it a whole lot worse. But even if you're put on a Monday or Tuesday, I mean, there still isn't a whole ton of expectation that you're probably going to play in the next game. So I would say Chris Godwin's probably not going to be playing in this game versus the Panthers. That is interesting that you said, in regards to late symptoms, he might have to miss multiple weeks. That would be unfortunate, but in terms of talking about this upcoming game, I don't think he's playing at all.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of high expectations for Chris Godwin to take the field on Sunday, and I mean, I guess it's okay. We had this situation, I guess, last Sunday. Obviously, we weren't dealing with an injury, but when you have a wide receiver essentially taken off the field and Mike Evans, who didn't have a very good week one performance, you've got those guys that you can dump the ball off to. I mean, Scotty Miller having a really good day. I'm excited to see if he can step up and take this opportunity of Chris Godwin maybe missing some action this Sunday. Let's close out the injury report for Tampa Bay. Outside linebacker Jason Pierre-Paul, not injury related, did not participate, probably just a veteran day off. Tackle Donovan Smith with a knee injury, limited participation. Now this one's also kind of tricky because during the New Orleans game, towards the end of the game, you could see him kind of limping on and off the field. So how long do you guys think this has been bothering him?
Probably sometime in the New Orleans game, but I'd expect them to give it a go.
Yeah. Would you expect him to give it a go and, I mean, really just show some improvement from last week? Because, I mean, at this point, I worry more about an injured Donovan Smith more than, I guess what I thought was a healthy week one Donovan Smith.
So when I went back and watched that game, now I've always said, I said on the Monday show that I think he's an average left tackle that just had an awful game. I'll tell you what, that might have been the worst game he's ever played in his life. Yeah. I think he was just, I mean, sometimes there can be games where he doesn't play great, he doesn't play good at all, but he has some flashes, he has some reps where you're like, okay, like that's good. I mean, outside of the first quarter, James summed it up perfectly with that chart he did. It was just brutal. And I think he'll probably bounce back just because I don't know how much worse he could get, basically. So,
well, like you said, Evan, I charted on Twitter. I put it on my community tab on here on YouTube. I mean, he got beat a lot after that first quarter, and some of it was ugly. They, as far as I saw, they put Cam Jordan on Donovan Smith one time, as far as what I was seeing in terms of him getting beat. I'm surprised they didn't put him on for the entire game, because, I mean, the one play where Cam Jordan went up against Donovan Smith, he just shoved him right to the ground and got a tackle for loss on Ronald Jones. But to make matters worse, Donovan Smith was getting beat by a second-string and third-string defensive end consistently throughout the entirety of that game. So overall, yeah, I do want to see Donovan Smith improve. This injury, he had that injury, like you said, Rhett. He definitely sustained it maybe at some point during the game. But if he's got a bum knee, that's not going to help him at all against Carolina. So especially for a game where he needs to bounce back.
Absolutely. A lot of eyes are going to be on left tackle Donovan Smith this Sunday. So we'll see if he can bounce back, but a pretty tricky situation with that knee injury. So that's the latest injury report regarding Donovan Smith. To close things out for this latest injury report for the Bucs, Safety Jordan Whitehead with an elbow injury. He was full participation today, so, I mean, he's going to play on Sunday. And while we're talking about him, what did you guys think of Jordan Whitehead last week? Because I've heard quite a few people say that, this secondary had a pretty good start, but he might have been the one that we're going to want to take a closer look at this week.
It's tough because I obviously haven't had the chance to go and look how he was in pass coverage, but I still thought he was an overall pretty decent tackler. I thought he did Jordan Whitehead things good, which was, being pretty decent in run defense, still being around the football when he needs to be and things like that. In terms of his pass coverage, I'm not sure yet. I know he had that pass interference play where he was pulling down, I believe, Emmanuel Sanders right around here on his jersey. Can't really do that, especially in 2020 NFL. To say he's the weak link of the secondary or something like that, I'm not sure. He might not have had the best game, but I don't think he had a terrible game in Week 1 versus the Saints. I thought the defense as a whole actually played pretty good.
Yeah, I thought Whitehead, like you said, in run support, he seemed to be all right. It seemed to be much better than his pass coverage. Obviously, he had that critical pass interference call on Emmanuel Sanders, which gave the Saints a touchdown, basically. Obviously, that's what most people will remember, unfortunately, when they view his performance. But I thought he was okay outside of that play. I definitely seen better, and I sort of expected better from him just because, he's entering his third year in the league now. At some point, I would expect him to start making more strides and stuff, and hopefully he's able to rebound. So,
would love to see it from him. Big game this Sunday for Jordan Whitehead. So that just about does it for the Buccaneers injury report. Let's take a look at the Panthers injury report. Now, 3 guys who we're concerned about. One of them is offensive guard Dennis Daly with an ankle injury. He did not participate today, so possibly a blow to that offensive line. Defensive end, Yetur Gross-Matos, I believe I pronounced that correctly, with an eye injury, did not participate at practice today. And then defensive tackle Kawan Short with a foot injury was limited participation today. And I'll tell you, out of those 3 names, the only one I think is going to play is probably Kawan Short.
Yeah, probably. Not having Yetur Gross-Matos would be pretty big. He's one of the young pass rushers they got in the second round last year. This past draft. So, not having him would kind of hurt their pass rush. Not having Kawan Short would be huge, I believe. I don't think Kawan Short participated in practice yesterday, but he was limited today. So I'd guess he's probably on track to play on Sunday. So, not having Gross-Matos would hurt, but they definitely need Kawan Short to play, because if you're out both those guys, it would be rough probably.
It's gonna be really interesting too, because Yetur Gross-Matos, he's the one who is going to be going up against Donovan Smith, and I believe on the injury report it was eye/concussion, I think was the exact thing. So, that's going to be interesting. Again, it's another opportunity for Donovan Smith to make things a little bit easier for him, but he still has a lot to prove because, Yetur Gross-Matos, if he's out, then Donovan Smith's still going up against second and third string pass rushers, which we saw he didn't do great against in Week 1.
I think their second pass rusher is Stephen Weatherly, I think.
Okay, so, if it's Stephen Weatherly versus Donovan Smith, even more so of just Donovan Smith, please just show that you can block, please. If Donovan Smith had another bad game against Stephen Weatherly, another backup pass rusher, that confidence is really dropping quick at that point. It's free falling. But Kawan Short's so important too, because if he does play, he's still going to be in a limited capacity. Alex Kappa, Ryan Jensen, that's probably going to be the 2 guys that Kawan Short's going to be going up against. I imagine Derek Brown would probably be going up against probably Ali Marpet. So to have Kawan Short be limited is a huge blow, and it would make Alex Kappa's job a little bit easier as well.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's get into the game preview itself and take a step back, look at how these 2 teams match up. What did the Panthers do last offseason? Well, they did quite a bit. They added Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. They put a new coaching staff in place. They got former Baylor head coach Matt Rule replacing Ron Rivera as the head coach. They got former LSU offensive coordinator Joe Brady with the offense. So there's a lot of new pieces. I mean, they added Robbie Anderson on the offense. He's in a different role. Excuse me. They added a bunch of rookies on that defense through the draft. So this is, in terms, much different than what we have seen than, even last year from the Carolina Panthers. It's not the Cam Newton era anymore. It is the Teddy Bridgewater era. And they were not able to pull off the win against the Raiders in week 1. So what does that mean for this team? I'm not exactly sure. Evan, when you look at Carolina, what are your first impressions of this team?
Ron Rivera, Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, Greg Olson, Mario Addison, James Bradbury. What do all those names have in common? Those are all names that have contributed to the success of the Carolina Panthers since like 2015, and they're all gone. None of them are there. Not a single one of those guys are there. This, especially on defense, this turnover on defense has just been incredible to me. And it's something that the Bucs are going to have to take advantage of. Now, I will admit, Carolina looked better than I thought they would last week. I thought that they played a pretty solid game, and they got down by double digits, and then they ended up coming back and ended up in the lead, and then gave up the lead. But I'll tell you, they were more impressive. I almost said yesterday again. Jeez, I keep thinking this is the Monday show. So they were more impressive than I thought they were going to be. So I really am not nervous, really, but I do think it's going to be. Now, initially in a season prediction show, I predicted that this game wouldn't be close. I do think it's going to be closer than I originally thought now. Just because after seeing these two teams play a game, I thought Teddy Bridgewater played okay. Like you said, it's a whole different deal. I mean, Joe Brady, Teddy Bridgewater. The one constant is obviously Christian McCaffrey, who is just going to do what he does, and it's the Bucs' job to shut him down. They did it last year. If they can do it again, I think they have a good shot to win, especially with Teddy Bridgewater, who's limited in what he can do as a passer. But at the end of the day, I think this game is going to come down to this offense. This offense with veterans, like a 20-year veteran at quarterback, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, potentially, most likely not. But Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, even Ronald Jones, all them guys are so experienced. And this Panthers defense, I mean, like you said, Yetur Gross-Matos might not play, but he's a rookie. Derek Brown, rookie. Brian Burns is his second year. Kawan Short, he's a veteran. Shaq Thompson, he's a veteran. Dante Jackson's in his third year. Jeremy Chin, the safety's a rookie. Troy Pride is a rookie. They are just starting so many inexperienced guys, and the Raiders threw pretty much all over them and ran all over them last week. So I expect this offense to rebound. They're not putting up 50 points, and it's not going to be pretty at times, but I think they'll rebound. And I mean, if they don't, then I think there's cause for concern, because this is definitely a game where they should.
You brought up Christian McCaffrey, and, Bucs fans are very well familiar with Christian McCaffrey. You don't have to talk very much about the guy. People know who he is, but when you do bring him up, you look at his stat line against the Raiders. He had 134 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. So the Buccaneers did shut him down last year, but again, different Carolina team. So the focus is going to be shutting him down as always. And then another thing you had brought up about Teddy Bridgewater I wanted to mention. I know he's somewhat limited as a passer, but Teddy always finds a way to burn people with his legs, and he can make some plays when he's rolling out of the pocket away from pressure. So you got to watch out for that as well. But a tough task for this defense. And I think if they handle both of them, they should win this game handily. James, what do you look at in this Panther team?
Well, first thing, I look at that wide receiver core. They have a lot of speed on there. Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson. They've got a little bit of size in DJ Moore. You lost Greg Olson on that offensive side of the football. That's huge. But obviously the offense still runs through Christian McCaffrey. Evan said, obviously, last year, Tampa Bay Buccaneers really did a good job of containing Christian McCaffrey. Devin White and Levante David both just came off a game where they both just had 11 tackles each. So it's up to them to really work and contain Christian McCaffrey. That's going to be a huge matchup in this upcoming game. But I'm still going to be kind of focused on that speed of, Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting versus Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson. I imagine they'd probably put Carlton Davis on DJ Moore since they're both that's kind of the size guy for the Panthers offense, wide receiver core. So, yeah, there's going to be some really interesting matchups. Like you said, you can't really discount Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, we are very familiar with Teddy Bridgewater last year with the Saints. He did a pretty good job against us. So to take Teddy Bridgewater lightly, I think would be a mistake. Another thing I'm going to be looking at is definitely the offensive line. Comparing the offensive line of the Carolina Panthers to the New Orleans Saints, that's a big step down from week 1 to week 2. Russell Okung, Taylor Morton, they're good starting tackles, but I still expect more pass rush from Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett in this game. And, fair credit, Jason Pierre-Paul did get a sack on Drew Brees last week. That was awesome. But I expect more now from the pass rush now that they're playing a little bit of a weaker offensive line than they did compared to the Saints.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to see a big performance from the pass rush, specifically those two guys you mentioned, Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett. Evan, I had cut you off right there.
No, it's all good.
But what else are you looking at in this matchup?
No, I just wanted to add to James's point. Well, one note, I do think the Panthers actually have kind of an underrated receiving core. I think Robbie Anderson is a solid number 2/number 3 guy. Curtis Samuel can do a lot of different things in the backfield and out wide. And DJ Moore, I think, has blossomed into a low tier number 1, high tier number 2 type guy. So yeah, I think the receiving core is pretty underrated. But I want to go back to what you said about Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett. The big thing with them is when you're able to get pressure, you don't have to blitz as much. And I think that's going to be pretty important because then when you're blitzing against this team with Christian McCaffrey, it's going to put McCaffrey likely one-on-one against either a safety or a linebacker with no real help. And if he makes one guy miss, it could be bad. So I don't know if you want to blitz this team as much. Bridgewater still gets the ball out pretty quick. So I think, being able to get a pass rush with a 4-man rush or 3-man rush, whatever it is, and not having to send that linebacker is huge. Jason Pierre-Paul got his sack, but it was off of a blitz. That was the only way they were really able to get pressure on Breeze last Sunday, and I think it's a huge key. If they're able to get consistent pressure, I think it's going to be a very long day for Bridgewater. But if they don't, it could be a long day for this defense. I think Bridgewater, if you give him time, he's just going to sit there and pick you apart, and then they can, do play action and run. And I think it's pretty important for those two guys to step up. And also, Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh up the middle. Vita Vea, after watching the tape, had a little bit of a better game than originally thought, but Ndamukong Suh still was like a non-factor. He's got to show up a little bit more. So against like you said, a Panthers offensive line that is definitely not on the same level as the Saints. So it's time to show up.
Yeah. Now, getting pressure on the passer is obviously very important to just making things happen on the defensive side of the ball. Something we didn't see a lot of last week, something we didn't see at all, were takeaways from this defense. And, with pressure on the quarterback, is going to come takeaways. So if that defensive line is able to perform, what are your guys' expectations for this secondary? Because, I think they did a really, really good job holding their own last week. They're in a much better spot than they were this time a year ago. And they're looking like, I guess based off of week 1, the strongest part of that defense. But if the defensive line can show up and you can pressure Teddy Bridgewater, I feel like it's just picks all around at that point.
Yeah, first thing, Carlton Davis looked phenomenal last week. He had a really good game. #1 corner. But, he did a great job of containing Michael Thomas. I really think he'll do a pretty good job of containing DJ Moore. Again, another pretty big step down in terms of matchups and things like that. DJ Moore is still a pretty solid wide receiver, but Michael Thomas is one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. So, I still think Carlton Davis will play a good game. Jamel Dean almost got his fingertips on one. I believe it was Sean Murphy-Bunting got his hands on one as well. Couldn't bring it in because of the pass interference call.
Caught it. But it was just, it was a pass interference call on Davis.
Right.
It was
play. I'm thinking of two plays then, because there was one where Sean Murphy-Bunting dove and caught it. And then there was that pass interference on Carlton Davis, and then there was another one with the Emmanuel Sanders play where Jordan Whitehead pulled down Emmanuel Sanders, and I believe it was Sean Murphy Bunting, or it was
okay, yep.
where he almost had a
He
second
dropped
one.
it, yeah, but it was pass
Right.
interference anyway, so he could have had 2 picks negated by pass interference.
Right, and then there was one more play. I don't remember where it was. I know it was on the Buccaneers side of the field. I don't remember what quarter it was in, but it was a tipped Drew Brees pass, and Antoine Winfield Jr. was going for it. It was basically in no man's land to the right side of the field, and Antoine Winfield Jr. almost was able to run over there and make the play on that. So it's kind of a similar story to what it was last year, where it's like we're just so close. We're so close to getting a couple of turnovers, but we can't do it yet. Maybe this will be the breakout game where they do get it. Like you said, pressure always helps out with getting turnovers, so maybe we can see more of that. I would say, hopefully, willingly, we'll be able to get 1 or 2 interceptions here if the pass rush does do its job.
Yeah, and Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, he's a guy who is notorious for being able to get the ball out of the pocket. Like, he's not going to make many mental mistakes that'll give you a lot of those turnovers, but the pressure most definitely helps. Now, we've covered the defense. Offensive side of the ball, I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Obviously, everyone's going to be looking at quarterback Tom Brady, looking to see how he bounces back this week, looking to see how there's no miscommunication between him and his receivers. Everybody's on the same page and they can get this offense humming. At least those are the expectations this week. But, I'll be honest with you. I'm not super worried about Brady bouncing back. Like, I'm not. He's still got it in him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think I need to sit here and think about it too hard. But what I am really, really interested in seeing this Sunday is how this run game develops. I appreciated that they did not abandon the run game last week. A lot of people said that we were just too quick to, run the ball on first down. And I agree. I think maybe we ran the ball a little too much on 1st and 10. But you got to run the ball, and you're not going to get the run game going if you don't run the ball. So even if you only get 2 or 3 yards, run it again. See if you can break one. And a guy who ran hard as hell was Ronald Jones. You can see it on the game film when you look back at it. So if that run game, they can continue to commit to it, I feel like this is just the week that Ronald Jones kind of, he breaks one for longer than 20 or 30 yards. I think he'll get his highlight run this week is what I'm trying to say. I'm really excited to watch this run game, if you couldn't tell.
25 rushes, 93 yards, and 3 touchdowns. What does that signify? Josh Jacobs' stat line versus the Panthers last week. Had a pretty good day, huh? So I think there's definitely going to be some holes in that Panthers defense where Ronald Jones could have a solid day. I think Fournette will get a few more carries. I seriously think, like the Bucs said, like they had a role for him, but I think now he's going to really be able to grasp the playbook and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, Jacobs got a ton of carries. I don't think Ronald Jones is going to get 25 carries just because this is still a Bruce Arians offense. I don't think they're going to really commit to a run like that. But he ran pretty much wild on them last week, and like I said, for 3 scores. So I think they'll want to establish it early, especially. And, I mean, the Bucs, I saw a stat, they were, really good off play action. I forget what the numbers were, but, Brady had thrown it was 6 attempts off play action, 4 of them were complete, and something else like that. The one to OJ touchdown was play action. So I think that can open up that a little bit more. So it's definitely important to establish it. I feel like they were a little bit predictable once you got into the mid-second quarter or so and they had a first down, you pretty much knew it was a run, and it didn't go anywhere. So, I mean, I think they have to sort of recognize, okay, you got to recognize early, in that first quarter, you got to recognize, okay, the run's not going to work. It's just not going to work for today, which is fine. But I think they recognized it too late. And this offense isn't built like the Tennessee Titans. This offense is built to throw the football. This offense isn't built to be a power run scheme. So, I wouldn't say abandon it because I think it's very important, but I would try to find a balanced attack. But if it's not working, recognize it early and go away from it.
Yeah, I think more play action is definitely what's going to be good. I mean, Tom Brady, dude, he's notoriously good for his play action. I know in Madden, every single year it seemed like his play action was a 95 or higher. You know what I mean? So he's definitely one of the best in the game. It doesn't surprise many people at all that the Buccaneers offense is good in play action. And another point that was made was, the run game doesn't really have to be working for play action to work. Like, you can catch an offense sleeping if the run game isn't working. If it's first down and they're expecting you to run, you bust out the play action, even though you've been getting 2-3 yards per carry. Every time you run on first down, they may bite for that play action. You get a big gain downfield, big momentum play. It's football. Everybody knows the rest of the story from there. So, what else are we looking at on this offense? James, I wanted to get your take and see what you're looking at this Sunday.
I mean, obviously the running back room, like you said, is going to be huge. When you lose Luke freaking Kuechly, Hall of Fame caliber player, you expect those running backs to get going. Josh Jacobs had over 100 total yards. I'm looking at all three running backs. Because LaShawn McCoy, I just looked it up. He was out there for 36% of the offensive snaps for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past Sunday. Ronald Jones was out there for 47%. Leonard Fournette was out there for 13%. So I'm curious to see how they use the running backs. I wonder if they would even take some snaps away from LaShawn McCoy and possibly give them to Leonard Fournette, because I'm going to be honest, I wasn't necessarily impressed with LaShawn McCoy in week one. I mean, he didn't do a ton. I mean, he just didn't. It's not like he did bad. I think I only saw him have maybe one bad play, but it was just like
the only play that I remember from his performance on Sunday was not a good play. So I guess that just sums up his afternoon.
He tried to pass block and he got blown up.
Right, and I think he had caught another pass. He ran backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
Just definitely seemed like a non-factor in that offense. So I'm curious if they're going to, try and have Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones be the two main guys coming in versus the Panthers. I mean, in my opinion, that's probably what it should be. And just see how that works. On the offensive side of the football, besides that, though, I'm curious as to what they're going to do in the slot now if Chris Godwin isn't going to go. Because I know Bruce Arians was, when they'd been making comparisons of, Scotty Miller's Julian Edelman. That was easy, and Bruce Arians said, no, he plays outside. He's not really a slot guy. Like, we put him in there sometimes, but Chris Godwin's our slot guy, and we're not taking snaps away from Chris Godwin. Now that Chris Godwin's hurt for this upcoming game, I wonder who they're going to put in that slot. I don't know if they're just going to move Scotty Miller over there and maybe put Justin Watson on the outside. I don't know if they're going to put Justin Watson in the slot. I'm not sure. Actually, that's kind of something I want your guys' thoughts on, because that's something I'm curious about.
I think you could see Tyler Johnson here. I think you could see a little bit of Tyler Johnson for the first time in the slot. I think you'd see probably, I would guess, more of Scotty Miller. When they go three wideouts, I would expect probably the three wideouts to be Evans and Watson on the outside with Miller inside. Just what I would expect, but I think you could see a little bit of Tyler Johnson here, and I think that if they want Miller on the outside, I think Johnson might be a better option in the slot than Justin Watson would be. So,
hey, I'd love to see Tyler Johnson in that slot for sure, man. So here on the Game Preview Show, we like to wrap things up with something called the weekly checklist. And basically what it is, I just write down 3 points, and the Bucs kind of need to do these things if they're going to win the football game on Sunday. So let's jump right into it. Boys, if at any point you have anything else you want to add to the weekly checklist, you go right ahead, because I'm sure the Bucs need all the help they can get. So, first thing on the weekly checklist, don't let Teddy make plays with his legs. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Teddy Bridgewater, you look at him, I look at a pretty balanced quarterback. I mean, he's a jack of all trades. He can hit the deep ball if you really want him to. Not always, but he can hit it. He can do a lot of checkdowns very, very well. And Evan, you brought up what he is limited in as a passer. He definitely makes up for being able to get away from pressure in the pocket. He is not to be slept on when it comes to those wheels, man. He can get away from you, and he can burn you for 20, 30, 40 yards quicker than you expect.
Drew Brees isn't going to run. Teddy Bridgewater can run. Teddy Bridgewater isn't Lamar Jackson, but he also isn't Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees. So, yeah, he can – if you give him a hole, he's going to be able to run, and he's going to take it, and he's probably going to slide. He's not going to try to fight for extra yards or whatever, but he'll take the 8-9 yards every time you give it to him, and that'll add up.
Hey, and call it a bold prediction, but I want to come out here right now and say that come Sunday – I think Teddy Bridgewater will be the leading rusher for that Panthers offense. I think the Bucs defense will do a really, really good job of shutting down McCaffrey, maybe hold him to, something like 50, 60 yards from scrimmage. Similar to a day they did to Alvin Kamara, but I'm expecting Teddy to maybe burn us once or twice because he always finds a way to do that. So next thing here on the weekly checklist, don't abandon the run game. I feel like we also just talked about this, and I think this one you might as well put on the weekly checklist every single week. Like, I am a passionate run game guy. And Evan, you brought up a great point. The Bucs offense is not the best at, the run game. They're not a Titans offense. They don't have Derrick Henry back there. But the run game humming allows you to come out with a much more balanced approach, and then I think it just gives you a higher success rate overall for when you hit those play actions, when you take those big shots downfield, and those definitely matter in the game of football. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, I guess we already kind of talked about it, but yeah, don't abandon the run game. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to the weekly checklist?
Yes. This one.
I have one also, so I'll go after James.
I've also got one more, so once you guys throw yours up, I'll finish it up.
Communicate in chemistry.
Yeah.
Good Lord, please just communicate and have better chemistry. And I don't mean just the offense. Yes, Donovan, whatever communication needs to go along the offensive line to have them do some better things, that needs to happen. One thing that I was looking at before we got into this podcast was I thought, okay, well, let me see how Alex Kappa played. There was way too many times when Alex Kappa just looked kind of confused and he didn't know who to help on a double team. He didn't know if he had to help Tristan Wirfs or Ryan Jensen. Get better communication along the offensive line. That's huge for Donovan Smith's sake and for Alex Kappa's sake. Alex Kappa overall didn't have a very bad game, but you need to communicate better on the offensive line. You need to have better chemistry between Tom Brady and the offensive line and Tom Brady and the wide receivers as well. The big thing, the Mike Evans miscommunication that led to an interception. That's things that need to be corrected on offense. Special teams, Mike Edwards. Can we talk for a minute? Buddy, pal, mi amigo. Look, I like Jadon Mickens. I think he's a great person. Friend of the channel. Hopefully, hey, maybe he'll get some opportunities as a slot wide receiver. Just wanted to get that point out there. But you can't do that. You just can't do that. That was, middle school level, in my opinion. Bruce Arians, I thought, was generous when he said high school level. You just don't do that. You don't run backwards on a kickoff and then go, I'm going to get it. Where did you plan on going with that, my guy? You were going to go out of bounds, Like, Jadon had it. Jadon was on his knees going, why? Why have you done this? it was incredible. We can't have that. Not this year, not with our quarterback, and I get that some of these young guys, they probably got a little too excited. They probably thought to themselves a little bit of like, oh, snap, this is happening. Tom Brady's our quarterback. I've got to make a play. I've got to do something to prove that, hey, I'm contributing, and like try and overachieve. Just do your job. Communicate what's going on and just do that. Special teams, really big problem there, with the blocked field goal and also in that kickoff return as well. And then on offense, we just need to see better chemistry. So communication, chemistry, please, starting this week with the Panthers.
So mine is going to be sort of like James's, but not like James's. Ryan Suckup, make the kicks. Just make them, because here's the deal. Matt Gay, I believe, made every kick in the Superdome last year. Chandler Catanzaro, week 1 in the Superdome in 2018, made every kick. Kickers have not had issue kicking in domes as much as they have kicking at Raymond James Stadium. This is Ryan Suckup's first test at Raymond James Stadium, and that south end zone, who basically cost the career of Matt Gay in Tampa, it doomed him. And so just make them. Make the Mako. If you miss a 60-yarder, who cares, right? Just anything under 40 has got to be in. That's a big key, because this is a game where I think this is a game where I think you won't be dominating so much to where 1 or 2 missed field goals won't come back to bite you, because it will. Because then you end up giving the Panthers a shorter field and maybe momentum shifts. So just make the kicks you're supposed to make and get on out of here with the W.
That's a very fair perspective. I mean, Buccaneers fans are all too familiar with the importance of a kicker, and Ryan Suckup definitely a big test on his shoulders, and I guess his cleats this Sunday. That was bad. Let's just move on. So closing out the weekly checklist, this one seems pretty obvious, but Donovan Smith just needs to block. Like, I've just got his name by himself on the weekly checklist because it seemed like everybody else on that offensive line was able to do a pretty okay job, except for him. So as long as he can improve, as long as he can show us that he is the, as Evan puts it, the average left tackle that he is, I think if he has an average day against Carolina, then Brady is going to have a much better day against Carolina than he did New Orleans. And that's pretty much that. I need Donovan Smith to step it up, do his job this week, and hopefully get some rhythm rolling for the rest of the season, because as time goes on, these games count more and more. You can't let ones like last week happen every single week, but hopefully it won't, because I have trust that this Buccaneers team will come out disciplined and they will definitely fix their mistakes. But ladies and sorry, go ahead, James.
I was going to say, obviously when I was charting everything, I counted Donovan Smith getting beat pretty badly about 10 times. Okay. And I feel like I was being pretty generous. Alex Kappa, I only counted him really getting beat 4 times pretty badly. One of those times being on that blocked field goal. Marcus Hunt just completely blew right past him and blocked that field goal. If Donovan Smith doesn't do, let's just say Yetur Gross-Matos doesn't play, okay, and it's Stephen Weatherly and whoever else the third string defensive end would be against Donovan Smith. If Donovan Smith doesn't show improvement in this upcoming game, what do we think about that? Is it time to panic, or is, because that'd be the second game in a row where he's playing backup pass rushers and he's not performing well. So what would we think?
He's probably benched. I would assume he's probably benched for Joe Haig or Josh Wells. I think that would be a solution. That Tristan Wirfs is not moving to left tackle after 2 games in the NFL. That's not happening. So I think in that scenario, he would be benched. They're not going to trade for some all-star like some fans want. That's not going to happen. So I think he'd be benched, and they'd look to start Haig or Josh Wells over at left tackle.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I think in the film room they take a good look at it, but when you look at it, from a fan's perspective, Donovan Smith just he's not able to get away with it anymore. You don't have Jameis Winston back there anymore. And I know that they see it in the film room, but last Sunday was bad. And let's just hope that it was a bad game in an otherwise average career. Or he steps it up, he earns his money, and he proves us all wrong. That is the much better case situation in this scenario. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you so much for checking us out with video on YouTube or listening on any major podcast platform. Of course, it is the podcast, so we get you updated over there as well. Make sure you check out James and his content. He does a really great job. You can check him out on YouTube at Mr. Bucs Nation. James, tell the people a little bit about yourself as if they don't already know.
I make YouTube videos.
There you go.
They're that's it. That's good. I don't know. We talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's great. I have a great time making YouTube videos. It's very fun. We talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just like you guys. It's great. We're all hanging out on YouTube and making videos, and it's fun. I've been trying to upload every day. It's so hard. Evan, look at me. Evan, it's so hard making YouTube videos every day. It's incredible.
Why'd you have to make eye contact with me and say that?
It's you can find it at Mr. Bucs Nation here on YouTube, all one word, all together. It's great. It's good stuff.
There you go. I'll make sure to link all of his stuff in the description as well, so make sure you guys go check out our good friend, Mr. Bucs Nation. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. It's basically the best place to go for any updates on the show and, of course, any Buccaneer news as it happens and comes out. You can check out my co-host on social media, Instagram at Bucs_Daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. And you can check him out on Twitter at EvanNFL. How's Twitter been treating you, Evan?
Twitter's Twitter. It's not going to change. So, some days you go on there and you're like, oh, this is nice. And other days you're like, I should delete this app. I don't know why I have it, but yeah.
I figured now that football's back and we have more relevant things.
Oh, it's even worse now that football's back, though.
Oh,
because now you get the people that don't know what they're talking about just spouting off hot takes.
just like myself. And if you guys want to witness that, go follow me on Twitter.
And me too.
Go follow me on Twitter at Redicus. If you follow me, I promise I'll follow you back. You can also follow me on Instagram. If you follow me over there, I will follow you back. I am Rhett Matthew, signing off for James Hill and my co-host Evan Wanish. We appreciate you guys listening to our show. We'll talk to you Monday after the game. Go Bucs.